Is it possible to boost your FICO score between 2 and 250 points or more in the next 3 to 4 weeks? Well, absolutely it is. My name is Monica Main, and I'm a self-made entrepreneur and investor, and I'm here to tell you that there is actually a cheat in being able to massively boost your FICO score in the shortest amount of time possible. So here we go. Then this is a very, very simple strategy where anybody can do this as long as you have a social security number and access to the internet. And my recommendation to you is, first and foremost, you go to Experian.gov. And I recommend that you pay the $40 if you don't already have a service with them. And you get all 3 credit reports with Experian, Equifax, and Transunion, and all 3 FICO scores, because you want to have a starting point of where you're at now. And then the very first thing that you're going to do, I always recommend that people print off their credit reports. And so then that way you have actually a physical copy. You take a highlighter marker, you go through all the adverse or things that are negatively impacting your credit. It can be all the things that are listed in the very beginning of the credit report. It could also be hard inquiries, which is usually typically at the very end of your credit report. And so you highlight everything that's negatively impacting your score. And many times these services will also offer you a listing of what they believe is negatively impacting your score as well. But most of the time it has to do with late pays, charge-offs. It has to do with repossessions, foreclosures, if you have a bankruptcy, or if you have collections. Those are the things that are negatively impacting your FICO score. And so the way to tackle this, I strongly urge you to start to think about doing the dispute process. There's several rounds that are necessary to be able to do this successfully, but I recommend that you start with round 1. So first and foremost, you should have already one of your credit reports with ideally all 3 credit reporting bureaus. You have all 3 FICO scores, and you're sitting there, you're about to have your plan of attack. My recommendation to you is that you focus on disputing your collection agencies, your charge-offs, and any and all old closed accounts, because those are the easiest ones to have fall off your credit. And so I have some dispute letters for free that you can get that's down in the description box. So go ahead and check the description box right now. You can go ahead and go to my link, and I will give you all of my free dispute letters to where you can actually download them for free and use them to send to the 3 credit reporting bureaus. Now, I will warn you, a lot of people are lazy. They want to dial it in, and what they simply want to do is they just want to do all of their disputes online. Wrong. Do not dispute anything online, because it's a computer talking to another computer. No investigation ever occurs, and what they do is they essentially solidify the debt that they're supposedly supposed to be investigating. They solidify it, and then if you do it that way, it's next to impossible to have it removed or updated later. So you always, always, always do all of your disputes by way of physical mail, and even better, trackable mail. So you're going to do round 1 of your disputes. And again, you're going to tackle your collection agencies, charge-offs, closed accounts, anything that's older and definitely closed. Even better if it's by a collection agency and it's not the main company or lender or bank anymore. It's bought out by a collection agency. Those are usually the easiest to have removed off your credit. The reason being is because what happens is when you file your disputes with the 3 credit reporting bureaus, you're going to be sending a letter to Experian, Equifax, and Transunion directly, a letter, not online, but a letter by trackable mail. What happens is they have 30 days by law, by federal law, to do the entire investigation dispute process. And so what ends up happening is that they fire off a letter to each one of the entities that you are filing a dispute against, and they say, listen, this person's saying that the information is incorrect, so basically show us proof that this person has an account with you or has had an account. If it's a collection agency, likely they don't have proof at all. They don't have anything. They just basically bought a file from somebody else, and they have no information on where you came from, what the debt was for, etc. So the cool thing about this whole thing is that they're not going to have enough information. They're going to be scrambling around for any additional data, contracts, information that proves that you have an account. And many times they have to go back to the original creditor saying, hey, do you have any contracts, any invoices, or anything that proves that you've done business with these people? And by the time all this stuff happens where they're able to actually get the information, get it back to the credit reporting bureaus, 30 days has expired. So this is why you always tackle your disputes with the credit bureaus first. Always first and foremost. So again, Experian, Equifax, Transunion, you connect with them first. You never, ever, ever deal with the collection agency. You never deal with the creditor. You never deal with anybody who the originating debt came from, or the collection agency that's part of it. You don't deal with any of those people. You only specifically deal with the credit reporting bureaus. So when you do your round of disputes, and again, go to the description box below, you will get all my free letters. You mail them a letter by way of trackable mail. I like to use USPS Priority, and I like to have the trackable mail. You can go a step further and pay for signature confirmation, or what you can do is you can just use a regular number 10 business envelope, and you can go to the USPS, US Postal Service, walk in and get a certified letter, which means that you'll get a wet signature from somebody at one of the credit bureaus, at each of the credit bureaus, to prove that they've received your letter. Here's another tip for you. When you send in your dispute letters, make sure that you send in a copy of your current driver's license or ID card, ideally with your current address on it, and 2 utility bills that have your name and address. If you do not have 2 utility bills with your name and address, maybe you live with somebody else, then include 2 other bills, maybe an insurance bill or a cell phone bill or something else that has your name and your current address. If you've moved within the past 2 years, make sure that you include your current address at the top, and then underneath the signature line where you would sign your letter, you basically say, my current address is this, and within the last 2 years I've moved, so my prior address was this, and you put that underneath the signature line. The other thing too is you don't want to give them your legal signature. So I like to just basically do what I would do as an initial for my signature, but you do have to have some kind of reference to the fact that you're authorizing this investigation. So some people might claim that it's not a good idea to put any signature there. I disagree, because a lot of times these credit reporting bureaus will not take your letter seriously, because if you don't sign anything at all to your letter, they're going to think that it's some third party credit repair company that's trying to repair your credit, and they're not going to do your investigation. And then they're going to try to buy themselves time by basically kicking your letter back saying, we don't believe that this was you that initiated this dispute process or investigation. Therefore, we're going to kick this back until you show further proof that this was you, and that you show further proof that with your identification or whatnot. So again, this is why we have to sign something to the bottom. It doesn't necessarily have to be your legal signature, but it can be just a little scribble at the bottom where your name is going to be at the very end of the letter. And you also need to make sure that you include a copy of your current identification and your 2 bills, a copy of those. If you don't have your current address on your driver's license or ID card, why not? Why haven't you gone to the DMV to update this information yet? Because they're not going to take you as seriously if you don't have the current address information on your current ID card. If you don't want to go get your current ID updated, then maybe include a copy of your passport. That is also going to be acceptable as well, provided that it is a current passport that is not expired. So you can also do that as well. So you want to include these copies in there so that they don't kick your dispute out, because many times they will try to buy themselves time saying, we don't believe it's you. And then that buys them another 30 days, and that just further potentially solidifies the fact that this debt might stay on your credit report forever. Because once the first round of disputes go off and they investigate for the 30-day time frame, whatever doesn't come off your credit usually stays there pretty close to permanently forever. Now, there's a way around this, of course, like doing your disputes every 35 days religiously, and eventually they just get sick of you and stuff just starts to fall off. The creditors who keep hearing from the credit reporting bureaus, they get sick of hearing from the credit reporting bureaus, so then they just stop responding. So yeah, it does help when you just keep firing off round after round after round. But your first round is going to be your most critical round. So you want to include at least 3 to 5 of your oldest closed accounts. And then that way those will likely fall off right away, like probably within the first 3 weeks after you fire off your initial set of disputes. And then whatever stays on, like for example, all the credit reporting bureaus, Experian, Equifax, Transunion, they will send you an updated letter stating this is what fell off, this is what was updated. Updated meaning basically it just stayed on, right? You always want to save all the correspondence that you receive from the credit reporting bureaus. The reason being is because sometimes another collection agency will buy a debt from another collection agency or another creditor, and what typically happens is they'll put it right back on your credit report. And if you show proof that some other collection agency from the same originating debtor already came off, you simply fire off a letter to TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian, whoever now has this new collection account. You basically say, sorry, you already took this off of my credit report. Here's proof. Here's a copy of the letter showing you took this off. You cannot, by federal law, put this back on, and they immediately have to take it off. I've had this happen so many times. They bank on the fact that you don't keep your paperwork. They bank on the fact that you just throw everything away or are completely disorganized. So this is why you have to have file folders of all the correspondence that you receive in response to your disputes from the credit reporting bureaus. Keep everything, keep every scrap of paper that comes back, because you might need it in the future. Case in point, one of my prior husbands, I had 3, believe it or not, but my second husband, he had a debtor. It was Mercedes-Benz Financial. He had a repossession from Mercedes on his personal credit. So I worked at getting it off. And finally what happened was they ended up not fulfilling on giving the contract to their credit reporting bureaus because they missed the mark. And yes, even Mercedes-Benz Financial can miss the mark. They did not respond in time for the 30-day investigation, so it fell off all 3 credit reporting bureaus. Believe it or not, a repo fell off all 3 credit reporting bureaus. However, a collection agency came in later and they picked up the debt on whatever was owed between the repossession and the amount that was owed on the loan and what they had to sell the car for on auction. So there was a gap of, I don't know, like $10,000-$12,000 that they kept on his credit report. So a collection agency puts that amount back on his credit report. And I said, no, no, no. Take a look at this letter. It clearly states that this debt fell off already. You cannot, by federal law, put this back on. And so they immediately took it off. They immediately took it off. What would have happened if I did not have that letter? Well, I would have told you what would have happened. It would have just stayed on his credit, because most people are disorganized. They throw everything away. They don't keep all of their records straight, and therefore they pay the price for it. So don't be one of these people that pays the price for it because you're too lazy to keep files, or you're just too disorganized, or you throw everything away. Do not do that, because it will come in handy. I can guarantee you, in your journey of doing this, it will come in handy that you keep your paperwork in order. So keep file folders meticulously. And so within 30 days, you will have a lot of stuff drop off. You'll be able to improve your FICO score by at least a couple hundred points if you dispute everything that needs to come off, everything that is adverse, everything that's negative, all your closed, especially older accounts. Now, here's another tip. A lot of times your creditors will start to come out of the woodwork, and they'll start to call you on the phone or reach out to you by way of mail. Do not engage with these people, especially on the phone. They record all of their phone calls, okay? So what ends up happening is that if you at any point in time in that recorded phone call conversation admit to the fact that that's your debt, it will start that 7-year clock all over again. So say, for example, you've had a debt on your credit report. It's 5 years old, and it's about to fall off after 7 years. And all of a sudden they call you on the phone saying, hey, so-and-so, is this so-and-so? Well, let's talk about your debt. Maybe we can come up with some payment plan. And then maybe you say something, you slip up and you say, okay, well, what kind of payment plan on this debt that I owe? And immediately, the very moment you admit to the fact that that's your debt, that starts that 7 years all over again from day one. So do not engage with them on the phone at all. If they call you on the phone, just say, please cease and desist all communication with me. And if you send them a letter by way of physical mail, and you say, listen, you need to cease and desist all communication, whether it's phone communication, physical letter communication, all communication with me by federal law, they absolutely must cease and desist all communication with you, period. No exceptions. And so you immediately fire off a letter to them. If they call you and harass you on the phone, just say, cease and desist all communication. But again, if these people call you, simply hang up and say not a word, not a peep, because they are recording every single phone call. And they're going to use it against you if you say something stupid. So don't say anything at all. Click, and then fire off a letter, cease and desist all communication, and then that should put an end to it. And so you can definitely file complaints with the federal government online if they are in violation of the Fair Credit Reporting Act. So you can definitely Google that, file a complaint, violation of Fair Credit Reporting Act, and you could file government complaints with any of these collection agencies if they continue to harass you on the phone. You can also file complaints against the credit reporting bureaus with the government. And a lot of times this will give you a lot of leeway as far as getting stuff off your personal credit that has not come off if in fact you found that they failed to do the investigation. Meaning that, say for example, you have 5 disputes for 5 collection accounts, and maybe 3 of the 5 fall off your credit and 2 of them were updated, but then they failed to include how they did their legal investigation over the course of that 30-day time frame. Well, one of the legal ways that they tend to do their investigation is through what we call the e-Oscar method, which is absolutely illegal for them to use, which is essentially a computerized method for them to do an investigation, which is not a legal investigation. And so what you can do is file a complaint with the government and say, listen, these people, the Transunion, Equifax, and Experian did not do an adequate investigation. They failed to give me proof that they actually did the 30-day investigation, and I believe that they used the e-Oscar method, which is legal. Please let them know that they are in violation of federal law. And typically what happens is the federal government will then send the Experian, Equifax, and Transunion bureaus a letter saying, is this true? Are you in violation of these federal laws? And then you'll also notice that even though the investigation is technically over with, that you might also notice that things are falling off your credit after that, because none of the credit bureaus want to get sued by the government. The government has sued the credit bureaus billions of dollars in fines and citations. That's the last thing they want to do, is open up another big ball of wax lawsuit, civil lawsuit with the government. So you'll also notice things falling off your credit when you start to file those complaints with the government. So I'm going to include all the information down below in the box, where you're going to notice in the description box, I'm also going to include the website where you can file those government complaints against the credit reporting bureaus. You could also file the complaints against the collection agency, against any of the creditors. Anybody who is not playing ball with having this stuff removed and properly updated on your credit, they all need to have complaints filed against them. None of them want to deal with government complaints, and that could definitely move you even closer to having a cleaner personal credit report. So if you like this video, give me a thumbs up and make sure you subscribe to my channel. It helps me out a lot. Please note that I give you all of the things that you need in the description box below, including those free dispute letters. This is Monica Main signing off, and I will see you in the next video.